resource management. All right. So let's start with this. Now we have toward the end we have how many chapters? I think we have 3 chapters left, out of which this is the first one. Further human resource management. So further human resource management starts with the basic concept of productivity. What is productivity? Productivity. We say production and we say productivity. What is the difference between production and productivity?
Production is producing a product,
Right?
and productivity is how many products are produced.
Production is the quantity of goods, yeah, the quantity of output that you have produced. Productivity is output divided by input. Okay? Output divided by input. तो ये प्रोडक्टिविटी का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, इसकी एप्लीकेशन क्या है? ये किस चीज में आपको हेल्प करता है? व्हाट डज इट हेल्प यू डिटरमिन? प्रोडक्टिविटी से क्या चीज पता चलती है? Efficiency.
Efficiency of the
Productivity is directly related to the concept of
Efficiency.
Efficiency. ठीक है? You have produced 100 units of a product. Okay? Or let's say you have produced 100,000 units of a product. All right? Using 10,000 workers. So what is the output of one worker?
1,000. नहीं.
Output per unit of input. Now you have produced 100,000 units of a product using 10,000 workers.
100.
What is the output of one worker? 10. 100,000 divided by 10,000. The answer is 10. So one worker is producing 10 units. Now, let's say the output of the other company is also 100,000. Okay? But there they employ only 100 workers. Okay? Output is the same. Production is the same. Difference is number of workers. In one company, number of workers is 10,000. In the other company, number of workers is 100. Both are producing 100,000. What is the productivity of this one? What is the output per worker?
1,000 units.
1,000. So which one is better?
The second.
1,000. Where you are producing more units per unit of input. Alright?
Yes.
Understood? So this is the basic concept of productivity, and it is completely linked to the concept of efficiency. Alright, next. Okay. We cannot compare productivity of firms in different industries. Okay, we cannot compare output per worker of different industries. You cannot compare the output in a bakery with the output in a shipyard. Okay, so if you are saying bakery is producing 100,000 bread and the car assembly is producing 100 cars, which one is better? Which one is more efficient? You cannot determine that. Why? Because they are both in different industries. So in order to determine efficiency, you have to make sure that the firms being compared are in the same
industry.
Are in the same industry. Okay. Now, what are the factors that lead to increase in productivity? There are 5 factors that you have to keep in mind from exam point of view. Productivity किस तरह से increase होती है? ठीक है? The first thing that you need is a motivated workforce. The better motivated your workforce is, the more your productivity is going to be. Right? And how do we motivate the workforce? Can you go back and think about what we studied in AS? Okay, the various motivational theories and the various financial and non-financial motivators. So all those now are coming together. Everything in business ultimately comes together and it has to be linked to efficiency. So improved motivation का मकसद क्या था? Improved motivation का मकसद ये था कि आप अपनी efficiency को और अपनी productivity को increase करें. So the first factor is a motivated workforce. Second factor,
technological advancement.
Capital equipment or technological advancement, same thing. ठीक है? Efficient. Now here also the machines have to be efficient. What is an efficient machine? There is an efficient worker and there is an efficient machine. What is an efficient machine. Same thing. The same concept is used. Machines which produce more output per unit of that particular equipment. Alright? And these machines are normally going to be advanced machines, new machines, because old machines are going to face breakdown.
Yes.
And will require a lot of maintenance, because of which they will have to stop production at times, and output per unit of the machine will be less. So better technology, better capital equipment. But if you have the best technology in the world, ठीक है, मुझे आप इस कंप्यूटर के ऊपर बिठा दें और मुझसे कहें कि इस पे आप फोटोशॉप पे काम शुरू कर दें, बेहतरीन कंपोजिंग इसके ऊपर हो सकती है, ठीक है जी भाई, मुझे आए तो बेहतरीन कंपोजिंग हो सकती है, लेकिन मुझे आए तो the best machine in the world is useless if the labor is not trained. Labor is not trained. So that is another very. और मैंने आपसे एक और बात कही थी कि there are 3 factors that lead to market failure. Untrained labor is one of those factors. All right. Untrained labor is such a bad thing that it can actually lead to market failure. So definitely, if it can lead to market failure, it can also lead to failure of efficiency and the failure of firms. Now what else? If you involve the worker in decision making, job enrichment, okay, empowerment, वो सब कहाँ से आता है? Enrichment आप करेंगे तो efficiency बढ़ेगी, empowerment आप करेंगे, मगर वो आता कहाँ है? First you have to involve the worker in some way, in some form, in the decision making process. And you remember quality circles? Okay, quality circles where people sit together and they discuss various quality issues. The workers sit together, they discuss, and they come up with constant improvements. All right. So these are some of the things that can increase efficiency. Next. Okay. Now, service industry. One thing which is important from exam point of view is service industry. Service industry के अंदर प्रोडक्टिविटी को मेजर करना थोड़ा सा ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट होता है compared to firms where things are being produced. Why is that? Quantitative data is not really available. If you are in the service industry, you are servicing the people, you are trying to give satisfaction to people one-on-one. There is no physical product that you are giving. Alright, I am teaching here, I am teaching in a classroom. Alright, I teach you, I go out, no physical product is produced. So the principal or the vice principal has no physical quantity from me to judge how well I have taught today. Alright, so my efficiency is a little more difficult to judge in the service industry. And one industry which is examiner's favorite, जिसके ऊपर आप क्वेश्चन एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं, इज द होटल इंडस्ट्री. होटल इंडस्ट्री के अंदर आप मुझे बताएं किस तरह से हाउ विल यू बी एबल टू जज प्रोडक्टिविटी. कौन सी चीजें हैं जिस पर आप प्रोडक्टिविटी को जज कर सकते हैं, कौन सी है जिस पर आप नहीं कर सकते?
कस्टमर्स टर्नओवर, सेल्स टर्नओवर. सॉरी, क्या बेच रहे हैं? खाना बेच रहे हैं ना, कितने कस्टमर्स आते हैं उसके पास?
खाना होटल कौन सा वाला होटल तुमने समझा?
हो सकता है, लेकिन आप मुझे ये बताएं ना कि उसमें एफिशिएंसी ऑफ द वर्कर किस तरह से, किस बेसिस पे जज होगी? व्हाट्स द यार्डस्टिक? You go to a restaurant, how will you judge that the workers are efficient or not efficient?
The time taken for the order.
The time taken for the order, yes. Number of customers served. Okay, now we are all sitting around tables and we are being served. Okay, let's say I need one more bread. We are eating something and I need one more bread. Alright, I am served, the bread will come to me. Okay, the bread will come. But let's say my food gets cold and bread comes after 15 minutes. I am served, but have I been served efficiently? No. So, hotel industry के अंदर the main thing is the staff always on call. When I call someone, how long does he take to respond? Okay, response time. This is a very important, and it's very, very difficult to measure how well the waiters or how well the people who are supposed to serve the customers are responding, how quickly they are responding. It is just very difficult because no quantitative data is available. At the end of the day, you will say, I've served all the customers. Alright, but in how much time? With how much courtesy? Okay, there is no way of determining all those factors. Yes, what you can do is you can ask the person who came to your restaurant or who came to your hotel after the service has been provided. Are you satisfied? Where will you rate our ambience? Where will you rate our customer service? You can make him fill out a questionnaire after that. But how will you translate that into tangible service? That remains a pretty murky. ठीक है जी? तो ये हो गया. Next. Alright, now this is what it says. This means that prices in the hotel industry have not fallen as they have in, for example, computers and even airline tickets. Okay? Whenever there is efficiency, what happens? Efficiency से क्या होता है? Cost कम होती है. Cost कम होने से prices चीजों की गिरती हैं. लेकिन क्या होटल्स के अंदर ऐसा हो रहा है? जितने भी वो एफिशिएंट हो जाएं, जितने भी अच्छे हो जाएं, जितनी भी वो आपको सर्विस अच्छी दें, क्या उनके प्राइसेस जो कॉस्ट है आपके लिए व्हेन यू गो टू अ होटल, क्या वो कॉस्ट उस तरह से गिरती है?
बढ़ती रहती है.
नहीं, कॉस्ट उल्टी वहां पे बढ़ती है. वहां पर होटल इंडस्ट्री के अंदर प्रोडक्टिविटी को नापने का जो मेन तरीका है बस वो एक ही है कि हम आईटी को यूज कर रहे हैं बुकिंग्स के लिए, रिजर्वेशंस के लिए, और वो आईटी कितना एफिशिएंट तरीके से यूज हो रहा है. बट हाउ वेल आर वी सर्विंग द कस्टमर्स, ऑलराइट, दैट रिमेन्स स्लाइटली डिफिकल्ट टू जज. ओके, देन अनदर मेजर ऑफ एफिशिएंसी, absenteeism. What do you mean by absenteeism?
Absence of the labor.
Yes, absence
Staff.
of the labor, but in business there is a specific formula for that, and the formula is number of staff absent divided by total number of staff multiplied by 100. Whenever we are calculating a rate, we multiply the factor by 100. Okay, so over a period of time, how many people in the workforce did not come to office, did not come to the factory, did not come to the workplace? What does absenteeism show?
Motivation of the labor.
One, very good. It can show lack of motivation. Okay? Why is the person not eager to come in the morning? We are paying him, alright, he will get a salary, but still he is not able to come.
He is not interested.
Alright? Maybe something is wrong at his end, but maybe something is wrong at our end, and he's not motivated enough to come in the morning. A motivated worker will try to come to office, to come to work, and come to work early, come to work regularly, right? So this is an indicator that our efficiency is falling and something is wrong in the business. Next.
हमारी तरह.
Staff absenteeism, when people are absent, okay, what happens? Business activity is disrupted. Okay, absenteeism is basically disruptive. Someone hasn't come, his work will suffer. When his work suffers, productivity, output and efficiency of the firm as a whole will suffer. Especially, this is especially true where the business is where the business is based on providing a service to the customer directly. Alright, if a doctor doesn't come, the patients will suffer. If a teacher doesn't come, the students will suffer. Because only a teacher knows which subject he will teach, which chapter he will teach, only the doctor knows which diseases to be diagnosed and treated. ठीक है जी? तो सर्विस के अंदर this is a very important thing. Absenteeism is particularly disruptive when it happens in the service industry. Okay, what else? Labor turnover. another indication of how well the business is working or not working. What does labor turnover mean?
Sir, number of people
Okay, number of people leaving the firm, okay, divided by the average number of staff employed multiplied by 100.
100.
Turnover, number of people who are leaving the organization. If the labor turnover is high, something is
Wrong.
not right with the firm, and it will also disrupt the efficiency of the firm. So we immediately have to diagnose what the problem is so that labor turnover, the problem of labor turnover is addressed. Next. Okay, so why is labor turnover a problem? Alright. Now when you are doing the analysis के अंदर आप क्या डालेंगे? Cost, productivity and revenue. Impact on these three things. अब labor turnover का impact किस चीज पे सबसे ज्यादा होगा?
Productivity.
Cost पे सबसे ज्यादा होगा, उसी की वजह से revenue पर भी उसका impact आएगा. So let's look at the costs of high labor turnover. What is the cost? When people are leaving, you constantly have to keep recruiting, interviewing, selecting new people. Okay, that requires a lot of time,
Money.
and money. You have to put an ad, maybe you are doing external recruitment, you have to put an ad. That's costly. Time is going in an activity which is not exactly productive. Okay, what else? People are leaving, so output keeps falling. There are poor level of output. Why? Because the place where the production actually had to take place, there's no one there for a period of time. Okay, so output falls. This becomes particularly bad in the customer service industry. Customers are coming and there's no one to service them, there's no one to serve them, right? So you will lose customers. Lost sales over a long period of time, that will be another problem. There are no regular contacts with customers because it is a satisfied worker who brings a satisfied customer. Now when you don't have a worker, people are leaving constantly. क्या होगा? किसी भी कस्टमर के साथ आपका पर्सनलाइज्ड कांटेक्ट नहीं होगा, उसकी वजह से कस्टमर लॉयल्टी will break, and when customer loyalty breaks, repeat sales don't take place. Repeat sales don't take place, revenue of the business falls. This is the line of argument that you will have to adopt when you are doing the analysis. Alright? And another thing which is very important. Remember Mayo? What did Mayo say? Elton Mayo? Teams. When people work together, alright, a spirit is developed, a spirit of oneness is developed. That spirit will never develop if people are constantly resigning and going from the company. Alright? But labor turnover also has some benefits. Alright? This is classic example of evaluation. Something which has a negative impact on output, on cost, on revenue may also have a few positive impacts. Okay? ये उसका disadvantage का evaluation. Alright, so what are that? If low skilled people are leaving, now you are going to write, however, if the people who are leaving the organization do not have strong skills, then it's better to let them go. Alright? So if low skilled people are leaving, fine, let them go. If new people who are coming, they are bringing in new ideas and better practices, maybe the cost of high labor turnover will be offset by the value of these new ideas. Alright? Then there's something called rationalization. Okay? These days businesses do rationalization. What do you mean by rationalization?
Closing down of
Right? Closing down or removing certain people or certain operations of the business to cut costs. Okay? Rationalization. So in this rationalization process, if a company is prone to do rationalization, then what will happen? They will find that, okay, if people are leaving automatically, they do not have to go through the hassle of removing them, explaining them why they are being let go. So these things will offset the disadvantages of high labor turnover. Okay? So let's Move on. Alright. There are some other measures of performance. This is all related to the performance of the firm. Okay, high labor turnover, absenteeism. There are some other measures. Okay, we will quickly look at these other measures, yardsticks. Number one is wastage level. Again, what is wastage related to?
Productivity, efficiency.
Good, very good. Low wastage increases efficiency. High wastage reduces efficiency. Okay, reduced efficiency means reduced productivity. Correct. So, instead of looking at these calculations and formula, we can look at the other side of the picture. We can simply go and check the level of wastage. If the wastage is high, productivity is low, efficiency is low. What else? Reject rates. Okay. Have you ever bought anything through
Daraz.pk.
Daraz.pk? Exactly. Okay. खरीदा है आपने? How was the experience?
वापस कर दिया सर,
वापस कर दिया.
एक बार
You
बाकी
see?
चीजें लाइक
Right. I also bought once and I returned it.
Okay.
Alright. Why? Because when I received it, it was broken.
मैंने बताया.
Okay. It was I actually bought an electronic equipment, and when it was delivered to me, it was broken from inside. Alright. The fact that you receive something and it's broken, it's defective, means that something is wrong. The company is not doing its work efficiently. So the reject rate will determine whether you are efficient or not efficient. Another thing, consumer or customer complaints. Okay, I got my car fixed the other day. Alright, and I paid a sizable amount for that. And for a while it was working fine, but then the same creaking sound started coming from the car. So what did I do? I picked up the phone, I called him up, I called the mechanic and I said, look, I have a complaint. I'm not really satisfied with what you have done. Okay? Customer complaint, the fact that the consumer is complaining does not mean that the consumer likes to complain. Okay? कुछ producers क्या करते हैं? They get irritated when they get a consumer complaint. Consumers always crib. Consumers don't have the time to crib these days. If they are complaining, it means that there's something terribly wrong with the service that you have rendered. So, good companies have to take these consumer complaints very, very seriously. And fourth, one thing which we will discuss later on in some detail is strikes. If there are strikes against your management, if the workers are ready to strike, if they are ready to undertake industrial action, something is wrong in the company. Okay? Dharna, sit-ins, okay, lock-ins, lockouts, right? So something is not right. Okay? So now let's look at what strategies we can use to improve performance. Okay? And the first strategy, every strategy that you will use will be based on one thing. Try and find out why productivity is falling. Okay? So improvement in a company will only come when the reason behind falling productivity is established. Now, all the companies that are successful, ठीक है, वो companies जो successful हैं in increasing productivity, increasing customer satisfaction, whatever you want to call it, they have some common things which happen in all these companies. They have a common thread which always runs through. And what is that? They have a soft approach to human resource management. Okay, soft approach. We will see what soft approach means. Secondly, they carry out regular appraisals. Okay? What do you mean by appraisal? They carry out appraisal of employee performance constantly. Appraisal means, what does appraisal mean? Evaluate their workers, evaluate the work. They judge, they determine how well the workers have performed against some preset standards. Now, in the world of management, what happens is, you first have to, before you give someone some work to do, you have to establish some standards against which the work will be judged. If that standard is reached, the work is successful. If that standard is not reached, there is failure. So these are standards of failure and success. So against these preset standards, you have to check the performance of the worker. And if the worker is constantly not coming up to the mark, then some action needs to be taken. Sometimes it's disciplinary action, sometimes it's training, sometimes it's just talking to the worker, sometimes it's bringing about some change in working conditions, whatever. But appraisal is important. Another thing that these successful companies do is, so the first thing that these successful companies were doing was soft approach to HRM. Second was employee appraisal, employee performance appraisal. Thirdly, regular training. Training. These companies invest in their employees. They keep educating them, they keep teaching them new techniques. And these workers then apply these techniques, they increase their output per worker, and the cost of production then goes down. Okay, next. Then I said quality circles. What's a quality circle? A quality circle is a group of workers who meet to discuss problems and suggest solutions. They are formed. These are normally small groups. They raise problems. These are the problems that the company is facing, and then they also suggest solutions. Okay, and this is a very important part of worker empowerment and worker enrichment. They are taking responsibility for improvement. Okay, so these are the things that happen in those organizations which are successful in increasing their productivity. Okay, next. Another thing is self-production. Now, self-production means there are work groups which are autonomous and they take responsibility for doing complete sections of work or complete units of a product they produce. Which management thinker gave this idea that people should be responsible for complete units of work? Herzberg. Okay? This is a direct outcome of Herzberg's theory. Okay? You make cells, self-contained autonomous groups, and these people are not responsible for suggesting solutions. Okay? Quality circles are responsible for suggesting solutions. These people are actually responsible for doing complete units of work. They take responsibility for a particular section of the work that has been. And lastly, there might be some more, but one very important, but towards the end, is financial incentive. Okay, some kind of financial incentive, which management thinkers spoke about financial incentives. F.W. Taylor. Okay, so remember F.W. Taylor's thinking and his theory is not completely out of date. The economic man idea is used till this day to motivate people by giving financial rewards. Okay, next. Now that brings us to another very important thing, another very important concept from your exam point of view, which is called management by objectives. Let's look at the definition. A system is designed to motivate and coordinate a workforce by dividing the organization's overall aims to specific targets for each division, department and individual. Alright, so there is the corporate aim, right? The corporate aim is then divided into divisional aim, then departmental aim, then individual aim. Alright, but this is what we discussed in AS also. How does this differ from what we have discussed previously? Okay, in management by objectives, Ali, in management by objectives, these divisional, departmental and individual objectives are not imposed. This is the most important thing which you have to write. Even in organizations where there is no management by objectives, these objectives are given to divisions, departments and individuals. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Alright? But the thing which sets management by objectives apart is, in management by objectives, these objectives are not imposed. I will go to him, like when I gave the assignment last time, alright? Did I ask your opinion?
No, sir.
No. Okay? What did I do? I gave 2 questions and I said I wanted these questions solved. So what did I do? I made an objective and I imposed it on you. This is highly undemocratic. Okay, this is highly undemocratic. And that's why in the next class, when I asked you, have you done it? You just smiled. Okay, yeah, you did it, I know. So, but this is what management by objective says, that a better approach is, when you give someone an objective, talk to him first. Discuss, involve him in the objective setting process, okay, and then with mutual agreement I should give the objective to the individual or to the department or to the division. What is the advantage of this? When you discuss with someone and then give him an objective, what is the advantage?
Gives him a sense of involvement.
Right, that gives him a sense of ownership and he feels more committed to the objective. Okay, once you involve the worker in the objective setting process, he becomes committed to the objective and he will then work independently to achieve his own objective because he has set that objective for himself. Alright, so this is what I have said here. The process has to be undertaken after a discussion. The process has to be undertaken after a discussion and agreement with the people involved. Okay, people who have to do the work. Next. Okay, this is now what are the benefits? Alright, benefits analysis, reduction in cost, increase in revenue. How will that happen? It will happen firstly because job enrichment is taking place. The moment I am involving you in the decision making process, you are feeling empowered, and when you feel empowered, you feel motivated. The more motivated you are, the more efficient you will be. The more efficient you will be, the less my cost of production and the cost of wastage is going to be. My profitability will increase. Alright? So, alright. Secondly, when you set your objectives yourself, it helps you prioritize your work better. Okay, you know what you have to do first, you know what you have to do second, you know what you have to do third. Alright? If you and I agree that tomorrow you have to come to school ready for a test, okay, then today you will go home and you will say, no, my first priority is to study, my second priority is to play. So I will study today and I will play tomorrow. So the priorities are now set right. Alright. On the other hand, if I were to impose it on you and you are not in agreement with me, excuse me, and you are not in agreement with me, right, then you are going to do what you feel is better for you. Alright, and priorities will not be right. Next. Achha, by using the corporate aims and objectives as key focus for all departments, individual objectives, everyone should be working for the same overall target. So better coordination here. Alright, you and I now agree on the objective. We all agree on what our objectives are. Why? Because we have discussed and we have mutually set the objectives for ourselves. So better coordination will take place, we will all be on the same page, and teamwork and team spirit will improve. All the things that ultimately lead to higher motivation and efficiency. This will also avoid conflict. Discussion has been done before the work started. ठीक है जी, जब डिस्कशन पहले ही हो गया तो उस डिस्कशन के अंदर सारे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रिजॉल्व हो गए. नाउ ड्यूरिंग द वर्क देयर विल बी नो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. ऑलराइट, सो लेस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. एंड व्हाट डज कॉन्फ्लिक्ट डू? It increases the time for the work, thereby increasing the cost of the work, thereby reducing efficiency. So conflict is an efficiency killer, right? And it has to be eliminated. Then these objectives are a very important control device. Okay, control. What do you mean by control in business? Remember the 5 functions of a manager?
Coordination.
Planning,
coordination,
planning, organizing, directing, coordinating. The last was controlling. What does control mean?
Workforce control.
Sorry?
Workforce control.
No. When we say objectives are means of control, what do you mean by control here?
It keeps the operation of a business in line.
Right. So it makes sure that actual activity is in line with planned activity. Whatever your plan was, now your objective was that I want to sell goods worth $300,000. Okay, this is the objective. I am going to increase my sales from $200,000 to $300,000, whatever that is in percentage terms. Alright? So now the work that you will do will be in accordance with the same. Now if we have completed 60% of the time period is gone and we have increased our sales only by 100,000, we still have 200,000 more. So what will we do? We are going to increase investment in the workforce, we are going to increase our marketing, increase our promotion, whatever, because the objective is 300,000. So planned activity was 300,000, actual is falling behind it, so now we are going to increase actual activity, alright, so that it comes in line with planned activity. This is control. But where is this control coming from? This control is coming from the objectives that we had set in the first place. 300,000 sales. Okay? Samajh aa gayi? Okay? Right. So, and it also helps us monitor everybody's performance. Obviously, because there are objectives, we can now monitor everyone. You had to cut your costs by 30,000, but so far you have only cut your costs by 10,000. So 20,000 more. Reduce your expenditure. This is a control device. All right. Next. Okay. Now, what are the problems of management by objectives? Very, very difficult to be democratic with some people. Right, Sufyan? Yes. How do I involve everybody in the decision-making process, especially when the organization is large? Especially when people have differing opinions and differing objectives. How do I set common objectives when we all have differing objectives? That will need a lot of discussion, a lot of negotiation, a lot of give and take, and in the final analysis it will take a lot of time. And sometimes we don't have that much time. So the idea behind management by objective is to save time, okay, not to waste time through conflict. But when we are setting the objectives, that may be lost. Why? Because setting objectives itself can be a very time consuming process, and it may in fact lead to wastage and inefficiency. Alright, next. Things change very fast. I have set the objectives. Okay, let's say we have a government in power and we set our objectives based on their economic policies. But tomorrow there is a coup in the country, or tomorrow there is some political change, and that government disappears and another government comes with a completely new philosophy. Now, I had set my objectives keeping certain macroeconomic conditions in mind, but when the government changes, those macroeconomic conditions change. So what happens? My objectives become outdated very fast. Okay? So this is another problem with MBO. In MBO, the objectives have been set after a lot of discussion and after a lot of give and take, and after it's a very time consuming process as well, but then those objectives can become outdated very, very quickly. If the objectives are outdated, we have unrealistic aims and unrealistic targets, and that will further lead to inefficiency. It may also lead to demotivation, because people will feel the objective, I set an objective and now I'm not able to achieve anything. Alright, next. Okay, this is very important. Some people plan like crazy. Planning itself does not achieve anything. Setting an objective, I have set an objective, so what will that achieve? Setting an objective does not necessarily mean success. Certain conditions have to be fulfilled before those objectives can be met. I have set a very high target, but my workers are not trained enough to achieve those targets. You understand? Alright, if I say in the next 10 years we are going to go to the moon or we are going to go to Mars, I set this objective for the Space Agency of Pakistan. We don't, it's a very noble objective, but we don't have the skills, the trained labor to achieve this. Okay? So you have to make sure that when you set an objective, you have the adequate resources and training for the workers to achieve those results. Alright, next. What is labor legislation? What do you mean by legislation? Legislation.
Laws.
Law making. Okay, who makes the laws?
Government.
And who is empowered in Pakistan to make laws?
Shahid Khaqan Abbasi.
Not at all.
Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Not at all.
Army.
Not at all. Not at all.
Wazir Qanun.
Not at all. The National Assembly, the supreme law-making body in any country, is Parliament. Okay? It is the Parliament that makes laws. The Supreme Court and the judiciary are there to interpret those laws. They cannot make any new laws. And the executive, the Prime Minister, Mr. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, is there to enforce laws. He cannot make laws, he cannot interpret laws. Alright? He is just there to execute those laws and to put them into action. So every government is interested in protecting workers, the laborers, because they want healthy economic activity in the country. Right? So they make certain laws to control working conditions and the relationship between employer and employee. The relationship between employer and employee in business are called industrial relations. Okay? Sufyan? Okay? They are called industrial. They are called industrial relations. Okay? They are called industrial relations, right? So labor legislation is done to have a better environment in which workers and employers will operate. Next. Okay? So they make these laws which are called industrial relations laws. And government can execute its labor policy in various ways. It can set up certain agencies that will improve industrial relations, or it can itself formulate and implement policies in the market. Okay. Now, it is said that in any industry, it is said that in any industry there is always a potential for conflict. I'm not saying that there will actually be conflict, but there is a potential for conflict between employer and employee. Sufyan, why is there a potential for conflict between employer and employee? Ali?
Opinion and interest.
Okay. Interests,
Because of
not opinion. Interest is fine, but what else? Ali, why is there potential for conflict in
motives.
motives? Alright. So what are the motives and what is the difference in motives?
सर एक एम्प्लॉयर के जो मोटिव होता है कि उस किस्म के एम्प्लॉय को हायर करे जो उसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी
अब हायर कर लिया, we have hired the employee, but after hiring, is there any potential for conflict?
yes.
Why?
सर बोनस नहीं देगा तो चिढ़ेगा ना।
Right. So
Difference in
the
interests.
difference in objectives. The difference in objectives can create conflict between employer and employee even after people are hired and apparently the company is working smoothly. And what is the difference in objectives? The worker wants the best salary, compensation, working conditions, whatever you want to say. He wants the best for himself. On the other hand, whatever you give to the employee constitutes a cost for the employer. Okay, an employer wants to cut cost because if he doesn't cut cost, his profitability is reduced. If his profitability is reduced, then there is no long-term rationale for remaining in the business. All right. So this difference in objectives may lead to some conflict between the employer and the employee. So each wants to achieve his own objective. The employer wants a satisfactory profit, whereas the worker will want a high compensation and better working conditions, right? So there have been some approaches to resolve these conflicts, and broadly speaking, there are three main approaches to resolving industrial conflict, alright, or conflict between employer and the employee, and these are important from your exam point of view. So let's look at them one by one. The old approach. I am the employer, you are the employee, alright. Ali, what will an autocratic employer do in the event of a conflict?
अपनी पावर यूज करके या तो उसको सप्रेस करेगा या उसको निकाल देगा।
ठीक है. So this is called take it or leave it approach. Okay, take it or leave it. What does take it or leave it mean? The employer says, this is your pay, these are your working conditions, alright, this is the compensation maximum I can give you. You want it, take it. You don't want it, resign. It's my way or the highway. Alright, so this is the traditional approach, the old approach to dealing with industrial problems. What will this approach, what conditions will this approach create?
Low motivation.
Why? Why will it create low motivation?
Worker is not
Worker
happy,
will no
maybe
longer
he says
frustrated.
to come and do the job.
Right, right.
Other workers will see this attitude and they will revolt.
Wow, yes, very good. So what kind of feeling will it create in the organization among the workers?
Insecurity.
Insecurity, that's the main thing. The main thing is there will be a culture of fear and a culture of insecurity. Alright? Insecurity was related to which management thinkers theory?
जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन वाली किसकी थी? हर्जबर्ग।
Not Herzberg. Security needs.
Maslow.
Maslow says if people's security needs are not fulfilled, okay, if people's security needs are not fulfilled, they will not feel highly motivated to work. There will be a culture of fear, and the employer will try to control people through this kind of bullying. Sometimes this is also called a bullying attitude. He will use this kind of bullying on a day-to-day basis. All right, and then the employer will say, fair enough. You don't want these conditions, I'm going to replace you. I have 100 more people who are desperate for the job. So people who are desperate for the job will keep coming in.
Three
and
Idiots wala.
because of the fear and the security, a culture will develop where people will not be highly motivated. Alright? Is this approach still prevalent
Yes.
in my classroom? No. Thank God I'm democratic.
बिल्कुल opposite बात है.
ऑपोजिट बात है. तो किन कंट्रीज में ये अप्रोच आज भी है?
Not good.
राइट.
वाह.
Okay. North Korea maybe.
China.
But why?
Kim Jong-un.
Why does this approach exist?
Because they are trading
Because
weak labor protection.
okay, that may be one reason. Trade unions are weak, but more than that,
There are no legislation.
there is no legislation. Where there is weak labor legislation, remember what will the union do? The union will also press the government to make laws or press the management to follow laws made by the government. So there has to be a legal framework even for the unions to operate legally, right? So where the legal framework is not strong, where legislation is not strong, workers will be faced with a situation where the employer is always bullying them and telling them, please take it or leave it, and I don't need you, I have 100 more people I can hire in your place. Alright? Alright, so now this approach can have some benefits. Okay? Obviously this approach, if it's being used because it has some benefits. What are the benefits, Ali? What do you think the benefits are of this approach?
Hit out or get out.
Autocratic approach.
सर ढीठ लेबर को जो है वो ठंडे का सही काम करवा सकते.
Low labor cost. Okay, you are paying them less and you are constantly telling them, I will pay you less. If you don't like it, go. Alright? So your cost is less. When your cost is less, it means your profitability might be high. There's a potential that your profitability might be high or owing to low cost. But the disadvantages will offset this gain. A highly demotivated labor force. No opportunities to get trained. Okay? There is no training, there is no job enrichment. Because everyone is in fear and I don't believe in investing in my workers at all. There is no management by objectives. Okay? I have given you an objective which you do not own. So no prioritization will take place, no commitment to any objective will take place. As long as I am closely supervising you, you will follow and do the work, but when the supervision is gone, finish. Alright? This autocratic manager is following which theory? Theory X, very good. Alright? So can you go over theory X? What does theory X say?
The manager will always think that the worker is not motivated.
The worker is not motivated, he is always trying to avoid work, and therefore close supervision is needed in order to make sure. And the moment that supervision goes down, the worker's motivation will fall and his productivity will fall again. Alright, so these are next. Alright, the second method was, in the first situation, the employer was very strong. In the second, the workers are very strong. Now the employer is weak and the worker is strong. Why is the worker strong? Because of trade unions. Now what is a trade union?
Pressure groups.
Sorry?
Pressure groups.
No. What's a pressure group? Pressure group is usually an interest group which puts pressure on the government to effect some legislation. Alright? Unions can do that, but basically what does a union do?
They work for the interest of laborers.
Very good. So they work, a trade union is an organization of workers which works for the benefits of its members, mainly in two areas. pay and working conditions.
Yes.
These are the two things that are. Now there was a time when labor unions were very, very strong, and when labor unions were very, very strong, they were in a position to exploit the employers. They could use their power to strike and to bring production to a halt if they did not like what the employer was doing, if they did not like employer policy. So what was the result of this kind of collective bargaining? Okay, collective bargaining. What is collective bargaining? Ali? No. A lot of workers sit together. They form a union. And then together they go and put their demands in front of the employer. Sorry?
Monopsony.
No, monopsony is a buyer, is a single buyer. These are workers. See, if you have a demand and you bring it to me, you are alone and I am your employer. So you can put it in front of me like a request, and maybe I will take it into account, maybe I will not. I will have no pressure on me. But if 5 of you come together, okay, then you have the power of unity, and I'll say, okay, everyone wants it, so I'll take your demand very seriously. So you are collectively bargaining with me. So that is the idea of collective bargaining. Representatives of union and national employers used to negotiate wage levels. And this meant that trade union leaders became extremely powerful. Alright, so in this era, what happened? The wages of the workers rose. Okay, the wages of the workers, they did increase. But when they were negotiating for increase in wages, they were not taking into account the problems and the hardships faced by the employer in a world where competition was increasing, and only those companies that were able to push their costs down could survive in the long run. So they increased their wages at the cost of the firms which suffered in the long run. Alright, this is what happened in this era. Okay, so these national agreements that took place on after collective bargaining, once you bargain, there's an agreement between the workers and the employer. So these agreements that took place were not always in the best long-term interest of the business organizations and of the companies. They would also strike. Now, if the employer was not able to fulfill their demands, they would go on a strike. What is a strike?
They stop the production.
Alright, so in a strike, the workers say that we are not going to produce. What is the effect of a strike?
No production.
Low production. Alright?
No production.
Low output. It is extremely disruptive. It caused a lot of hardship both for the worker and for the employer. Right? So, yes, the wages were rising, but at what cost? High cost for the firms, and often prolonged strikes, which were very disruptive for the economy. And remember, these organizations these trade unions could sometimes be extremely huge. Alright? They could cover almost the entire workforce of a country. And if the entire workforce of a country went on strike, the economy of the country as a whole suffered. Alright? So, and this would further lead to a decrease in investment and growth in the industries. Okay? So now this was the net result. Industries in the USA and Europe began to lose competitiveness. Now this is the time when trade unions were at their peak and they were striking in USA and in Europe, England and France. This is the time when Asian countries came in and they took advantage of the situation, because Asian countries could compete with the European countries when it came to cost. and they took over the market. Why? Because they were able to produce goods at lower cost and offer them at lower prices to the consumers. Alright? Okay, so now we have the modern approach. Now we have the modern approach to industrial relations. This approach is called cooperation. Okay? First approach was autocratic. Take it or leave it. Second approach was collective bargaining. But the problem was that high wages came at a cost. The cost was strikes and low competitiveness. Alright? And the third, cooperation. This simply means that employer and employees operate in an environment of mutual understanding and respect for each other. I don't disrespect the worker does not disrespect me. We all try to look at things from each other's perspectives. Workers are now encouraged to get involved in important decision making. The employer says, alright, please come. You have a problem, come, let's sit down and discuss. I will show you my issues, you show me your issues. Together, we will discuss and come to some decision. Also, through management by objectives, I am involving you in business decision making, strategic business decision making. So, there is teamwork between the worker and the employer. The result is better industrial relations, greater harmony, less strikes, less industrial action, less disruption, less cost, more competitiveness. Alright? So the key for this to succeed is participation and staff involvement and sincerity. This is one thing which is not in your book, but I think that for this to work, sincerity is very important on both sides. Alright? I should not give the impression that I am involving the worker. I should actually take his views into account and incorporate them somehow in the decision making process. Okay, I have discussed trade unions. Okay. So, trade unions, what do they do? Number one, they work like a party, alright? And there are certain things that they do. Number one,